I've been getting a lot of requests for this one. It's finally here. My fall of 2015 list for my personal favorite roller coasters that I've ridden. I did one of these at the beginning of the year, before I had gone to parks like Kennywood, Cedar Point, Kings Island, and more. And so now that I have ridden a lot more roller coasters, it's time for an updated list. Now, last time I did this, it was top 10, but what has happened is I've ridden so many good roller coasters, and they're all fantastic, and I've been getting a lot of questions about which ones make your top 10, which ones don't. And there's some roller coasters that don't make my top 10 that I think people were wondering where it places in terms of which are my favorite roller coasters. So that is why I've decided to make this a top 15 instead of a top 10. Now, before I get started, I want to say that all of these are phenomenal. There's not a single bad coaster on this list, and there's gonna be some people that disagree with me. I'm gonna tell you right now, there are gonna be people that are gonna be saying, Taylor, what in the world? This doesn't make sense, or this part makes total sense, whatever. So I just want to prepare you for that, but this is my personal opinion, and that's the beauty of this. This is just what I think, and so if you're interested in hearing what I think, that's what this video is for. If you really don't care what I think, then you might as well shut off the video right now. But for those of you that are still here, let's get started. Number 15 is the Lightning Racer, one of 3 wooden roller coasters to make this list. What I love about their Lightning Racer is how there are 2 different sides of it. So yes, that is 2 coaster credits, and they really interact with each other. There's tons of bank turns, and it's really cool. GCI makes some awesome roller coasters, and Lightning Racer is my favorite roller coaster by GCI. Number 14 is the Banshee at Kings Island. This is the latest B&M invert to be built, and is the longest in the world. It's the only B&M invert in the United States that doesn't have a pre-drop, and it's a really spread out ride, so it sends you through 7 inversions. And the last one especially is the killer because it rolls through it very slowly. Definitely one of my favorite inverted roller coasters. And actually, from the same park, number 13 is the Beast. Now, I'm one of those people that even though I've put the Beast a little bit higher than Banshee, I think that both of them are awesome. And I think that it really could go back and forth between which one I prefer. They're so different, and what's great about the Beast is that it is such an incredibly long ride, 2 lift hills, and at night it's just an unbelievable experience. But my main problem with the Beast is that there are some trim breaks in it that really seem to kill the momentum. I'm talking about the first drop and at the end of the tunnel. But it's still a really good roller coaster. But I only spent 2 days at Kings Island, so for some people where Kings Island is your home park, some days you might prefer Banshee, and other days you think the Beast is better. So you'll find that a lot of these roller coasters that I have on here, even though I'm saying that one is better than the other, I don't necessarily look at it that way. Essentially, this list is just numbers attached to a ride. All of these roller coasters are so good and so close to each other that with any of these, I wouldn't necessarily say that, yes, this is my number 13 roller coaster. It's just not how I say it. Even though I do tons of these lists, I think that some of these are easily replaceable, and depending on if you had a good ride or a bad ride, they could slide up or down on your list. So I just want to make that clear. And it's a good thing I made that clear because a lot of people are going to be upset with this one. Number 12 is Millennium Force. And I can tell you right now, there's probably people watching this video that have their mouth hanging open and they're like, what? This channel's dumb. They don't like Millennium Force. Blah, 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 blah. I'm unsubscribing. Okay, good for you. Listen, here's my thing with the Millennium Force. I was disappointed by it. But as you've noticed, it made this list, so it is one of my top 15 roller coasters. But it was not as good as I was expecting it to be. And that's, I think, because it's been hyped up so much. I think it's overrated. I'm one of those people that are saying that Millennium Force is hyped up too much. It's been number 1 roller coaster in the world for several years in a row. And so I think because of that, I was expecting it to be my new number 1, which led me to be disappointed when it wasn't. I'll tell you right now, the things that I really like about my top roller coasters are that they're intense rides. I live for intensity. That's my favorite thing about roller coasters. Second is airtime, but intensity is my favorite element on roller coasters. And I think I was expecting Millennium Force to be intense because it's so tall, it's so fast, but it just wasn't that intense. It's still a great ride, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't what I was expecting. And that is partially why I made this a top 15 video, because Millennium Force didn't crack my top 10. But before we get to the top 10, we have our number 11 coaster, which is Diamondback at Kings Island. So as you've noticed, Kings Island's top 3 roller coasters are basically all right next to each other. I think that the Diamondback is probably my favorite coaster at Kings Island, but like I mentioned earlier, some days I might think that Beast is better or that Banshee's better, whatever. But I think that Diamondback is a really solid ride. You get tons of airtime, it goes out in the woods, it's really good. It does have a slight rattle to it, which is why I think that I didn't like it as much as other hyper coasters I've ridden, but it still has lots of good floater airtime and it's a very high quality ride. So now we're at our top 10, and this one's a bit of an odd one. I think this is probably the most underrated roller coaster on this list. This is Tennessee Tornado at Dollywood. Now the first time I went to Dollywood, my expectations weren't set that high for the Tennessee Tornado. I was focusing on other rides like Wild Eagle. But I rode it and I was blown away. I think that is one thing that is very different from Millennium Force. Millennium Force, I had too high expectations, and so I was disappointed. This, I didn't have very high expectations at all, and I was blown away. This is a fantastic ride. Like I mentioned earlier, intensity is one of my favorite things, and this ride, boy, is it intense. It is not a long ride at all. That is my major complaint about this. I wish it was longer, but from what it does, I absolutely love it. Some of you who haven't ridden are saying, come on, this is an aero coaster. How can it be that good? This ride is smooth. It is intense, the inversions are awesome, and when you're sitting on the front row, it is just fantastic, and at night it just gets even better. Number 9 is Afterburn at Carowinds. This is another underrated roller coaster. A lot of people think that Banshee is the best inverted coaster out there, but here's what I like about Afterburn. I think it also comes down to intensity. Afterburn is one of those old school B&M inverts. It's more compact than Banshee. Banshee is very drawn out. This one is one element right after another, and unlike Banshee, I did not find any rattle on Afterburn. Banshee had a very slight one. This, glossy smooth. When I first rode it, I was not expecting that I would like it as much as I actually do. Up next is Intimidator at the same park, Carowinds. This is my favorite B&M hyper that I have ridden. Yep, you heard it from me. I prefer Intimidator over Diamondback. I found Intimidator to be a tad smoother because Diamondback had a rattle, Intimidator didn't, and I just felt that there was more airtime in Intimidator. Every single element was an airtime hill, while Diamondback has lots of overbanked turns, which are good, but I think I just preferred overall Intimidator's layout. Some people say that Intimidator is trimmed to death, and there are so many trim brakes on it, and so it really doesn't make it that great. When I rode it, I didn't notice that, and I had a blast riding this roller coaster. Up next is another hypercoaster, Sky Rush at Hershey Park. Now, I haven't ridden this coaster since 2012, and so I would love to go back to Hershey Park to see if my opinion of it has changed at all. See if it would go higher on my list, or maybe even lower on my list. When I rode it at night, and at night it was just an unbelievable experience. The airtime is all ejector airtime, unlike B&M hypers like Diamondback and Intimidator. And this coaster is intense. The drop is at an 85-degree angle, so it's really steep. And like the Tennessee Tornado, this isn't that long of a ride. It's over in about a minute. But what it packs in is just awesome. It feels like an intimate megalite on steroids. Next we have the New Texas Giant, the only coaster I have ridden by Rocky Mountain Construction. And what's funny is, a lot of people say that this was one of the weaker RMCs out there. And if this is my number 6 roller coaster, then I should get on some other RMCs because those would probably place in my top spots. But I think that the New Texas Giant has a lot in common with the Intimidator. Both of those roller coasters are just pure fun. And for me, that's what I loved about the New Texas Giant. The New Texas Giant wasn't that intense, it was just fun. The overbank turns kind of hang you, you get a bit of hang time. The airtime is awesome, and it was a really fun roller coaster. And unlike some of the other RMCs out there, the New Texas Giant is a really long roller coaster. Coasters like Iron Rattler are over really quick. This ride just keeps on wrapping around itself, and it's great. So now we're at our top 5. Number 5 is the Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. This ride is fantastic. I love its speed. This thing goes so freaking fast. Its maximum speed is 85 miles an hour, and it really uses the terrain to its advantage. The first drop isn't as big as the second drop. And when Morgan took over this roller coaster from the Steel Phantom, they really made this coaster smooth. This thing is glossy smooth, and it has tons of airtime. The airtime is really in the second half of the ride, and it's all ejector air. And let me tell you, if you're sitting in the back seat, you go flying. Because of the way the restraint system is set up, the lap bar can only go down so far. So that can lead you to going way up out of your seat. This is such an awesome roller coaster, and I'm even tempted to move it up to my number 4 spot, which would move Maverick to my number 5 spot. But here's why I like Maverick. Intensity is my favorite thing on roller coasters, and Maverick has the intensity. It is one element after another. It is low to the ground. It is fast. It is a miniature Intimidator 305. As soon as you leave the station, you are flying up the lift hill. You have that beyond vertical drop, and then you get to the launch. And that launch just sends you flying through the rest of the course. You go through some more bank turns, and it's just awesome. In my opinion, Maverick is definitely the best roller coaster at Cedar Point. Number 3 is El Toro, the final wooden roller coaster on this list. I can understand why many people consider this the best wooden roller coaster in the world. This thing is unbelievable. Like Maverick, from the second you leave the station, you are flying up the lift hill as the only cable lift on a wooden roller coaster out there. The big airtime hills send you flying up, and if you get a chance to ride this coaster at night, it is all the more better. This ride has the airtime, it has the intensity, it has the bank turns, it has the drop, and it's glossy smooth. Smoothest wooden roller coaster I've ever ridden. What more could you want? Number 2 is a roller coaster I've been riding for years. It's at my home park, King's Dominion. This is Intimidator 305. A lot of people, when they ride roller coasters at their home park, they get kind of bored with them simply because they've ridden it so many times and it just doesn't seem as great. Well, this is not the case with Intimidator. Every time I ride it, I am blown away by it, and I keep on wanting to get back in line for more. It is so intense. This is easily the most intense roller coaster I have ever ridden, probably one of the most intense in the world. People have blacked out on this roller coaster. I've blacked out twice on it. But you get to the bottom of that first drop and everyone grays out on it. It clears up over the first big airtime hill, and then it uses that speed to the advantage. It stays low to the ground, goes over some large bank turns and some wild transitions Maverick style. And until recently, this was my number 1 roller coaster I've ever ridden, until I went down to Carowinds for the new Fury 325. Holy guacamole, baked in pasta and wrapped in bacon. This thing is fantastic. Like, this thing is such a long ride. It has everything you could want. It has airtime, it has height, it has speed. It has near-miss elements. It dives under the freaking bridge. And it's beautiful. This is, without a doubt, the number 1 roller coaster I've ridden. I love everything about it. So before I end the video, I just want to end by pointing out a few things. The top 3 roller coasters at Kings Island and Carowinds made this countdown. 6 of the 15 are at Carowinds and Kings Island. But if you noticed, the 3 coasters at Carowinds are above the 3 roller coasters at Kings Island. And it really goes to show that both of them have unbelievable top 3s. But I want to hear from you. What are your top roller coasters? And do you agree with this list? How many on this list have you ridden? And do you agree with which ones are better? Do you agree that Intimidator is better than Diamondback? Or that Afterburn is better than Banshee? And should Millennium Force have been as low as it actually was? There's a lot of things in this list that can be discussed, so I want to hear about them in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw, make sure to subscribe to Coaster Studios, and you can also check out more top 10s that have been posted to my channel. And of course, as usual, I'll still be posting some more, so make sure to stay tuned for those, and I'll catch you guys next time.